now joined by Dick Dale, not only king of the surf guitar, but Dick, we must pay tribute to you for bringing that distortion and that guitar heroics to everything we enjoy today with metal and punk. And
it's called the loudness.
That's it, the distortion.
It calls me father of loud.
Wow. So you go
all these things. One of them is called Father of Heavy Metal because I was playing on 60-gauge strings and stuff like that. That's a whole another big story about the electronics that we created, that Leo and I created to achieve that volume in the transformers.
Sure. So what was it about your early playing that really drove you to want to kind of explore that distortion and reverb? And
it was because of Gene Krupa. And when I first started playing guitar, ukulele first, and I was singing cowboy songs, country songs, and I'd listen to Hank Williams and all those old country singers and the gospel. I used to listen to a lot of that. And then my mind was full of windows, I call it. I have many windows. So I would be experimenting with everything, every style of music. My dad used to bring home the big band era and 78s, and I'd listen to Harry James, and I listened to Gene Krupa. And Gene Krupa was the first person to make drums a solo instrument in big band era. So I studied him, and he had gone into the jungles of the indigenous tribes, and he watched their rhythm, and it was always on the one. It was a 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, and they would bang their spears to the ground, going boom ticka bucka ticka ticka boom ticka, like that. It was always on the one. And that's why his drumming sounded, because they did their fertility dances with that rhythm. And that's why his drumming, that he copied their rhythms. And it's the same way all over the world. I have visited and been with, from the Aborigine to all of them, because I did a song for them and I did a didgeridoo in it. And they sent their children to come to see me when I was in Australia and gave me sand paintings and stuff like that. Well, all this rhythm is universal. So when I played on my ukulele and then on my first guitar, I wanted it to sound big like Gene Krupa's drums. And the picking, I copied his drum style, because drums became my first instrument, because I used to play in my mother's flour cans and sugar cans with the knives to Harry James and Gene Krupa. And so then that rhythm, ticka 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 ta, well, that was his rhythm. And when you do it fast, ticka 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 ta, it's always on the one. I would pick that way, ticka 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 ta, the same way Gene Krupa played on his drums. But then I needed something to amplify it, to make it big. And when I met Gene Krupa, when I first came to California, I came in 1954 from Massachusetts with my mom and dad, and because he got a job, he was hired by actually Howard Hughes. He was a precision machinist. And
you moved to El Segundo?
And he moved to Southwest LA, and he worked in El Segundo, and I got a job working for Hughes, and I actually met the man, Howard Hughes. Did not realize who he was at that time, and I graduated in my 12th grade in Southwest LA, George Washington High. And when I left Massachusetts, I had graduated in my 11th grade, so said goodbye to everybody. And then when I came, I started working there at Hughes Aircraft in metallurgy as a heat treater in metals. And I was on a graveyard shift. There's only like 3 of us, and 3 older men who trained me. And then I used to do induction brazing and heat treating and plating. Well, this man came in and spoke with my manager there and said he needed this job done over the weekend, and I was the one who was working that night. And we work with nitrogen and hydrogen. So he says, I don't care. I want it now. So I did the job. And later on, I realized who I was talking to. And but anyway, that's another story. So I wanted, when I met Leo in the middle 50s, in like 55.
So Leo Fender at that point was just a small guitar maker?
Well, yeah, you could say that. He actually gave Les Paul his big break by introducing them into the company where Les got to do his guitars. And Les and I, we played together back east in a big guitar conference thing where they flew people of, they said, legendary factors together in one place, and it was an incredible experience. And then we became good friends and talked about a lot about his past and my past. But Leo was the man, and he was like an Einstein. And when I first met Leo, because I had bought a guitar out of a pawn shop in Los Angeles, which I still have in the case right now, but I was playing country music, and I started with Town Hall Party in Compton, California, and that was where people like Freddie Hart, Lefty Frizzell, Johnny Cash, everybody was, Wanda Jackson, everyone was playing there every week. It was a local TV show. So in the Collins kids, Laurie and Larry Collins, and I won a contest there, and I was able to get on the stage and play there because I was the contest winner. And I was singing country music. I wanted to be a cowboy singer because I'm an old romantic. But then I had my buddy Ray and I, we rode down our machines, our Harleys, down into our Balboa, and they didn't have freeways then. And that was we turned around and found a big ballroom that people were playing when they graduated, and that's a whole nother story. And I really first started off at a rink-a-dink ice cream parlor, which was they sold ice cream, but next to it, inside it, was a folk singing place. And so that's how we first started doing that. That's when I found about Leo Fender, and I said, Mr. Fender, my name's Dick Dale, I'm a surfer, and I got no money, and can you help me out? And he took a liking to me, and he said, I just made this guitar, and it was a Fender Stratocaster, and it was designed for rock and roll music. Yeah. And he had made the Telecaster first, and he brought over a Hawaiian man from Hawaii, Freddie Tavares, to take all the bugs out of it. And so it was Leo and Freddie. Well, then all of a sudden, when he handed me the Stratocaster, I held it upside down, and I was playing it upside down backwards. And he turned around, and he almost fell off the chair laughing. And he wasn't the person who just laughed out loud normally. He had a little old monocle on his eye, and he would look up at me and very serious, like Einstein. And he says, why are you playing it like that? And I said, well, the book, when I bought my ukulele, didn't say, turn it the other way, stupid, you're left-handed. And he just kept on laughing. Well, I think that cemented our relationship because we used to end up sitting on the floor in his living room listening to Marty Robbins on a little old teeny amplifier with about an 8-inch Jensen speaker, in which I blew up every one of his Jensen speakers. And anyway, he said, take the guitar and beat the death out of it and tell me what you think. So I became his number one guinea pig. And then everything that came into his mind, he gave to me, from the Fender Rhodes pianos. Well, if you look on my webpage, just go dickdale.com. It'll give you my webpage. It'll not only tell you where we're playing, all the concerts, but it'll give you a beginning of all the things that I experimented that we put together. And so that started all of that. And I kept blowing up his amplifiers, and he kept saying, I blew up over 50 amplifiers. And he said, why do you have to play so loud? Well, right then and there, we had made an agreement to play at the Rendezvous Ballroom in Balboa. It was closed. And so we spoke with the owners, the Neufelds, Ernie and Thelma Neufeld, and they were very wonderful people living in Lodi and Wasco, I believe. And they had a Christmas tree farm, and then they turned around and let me. That's a whole other story, how we had to get permission from the police, the city managers, and everybody, because anybody who played a guitar then was considered playing evil and devil music. And so they wouldn't allow that. So I told them, I said, would you rather see the kids in one room, big ballroom, or see them out in the street drinking T-Bird? So they said, well, okay, they got to have to wear ties. Well, everybody was in bare feet. So my dad got a box of ties, handed them out to the kids coming in. The first 17 surfers that I was surfing with, we had a club called the Fifth Street Crew. And I said, I'm playing at the Rendezvous. You want to come? So they came down, and here's 17 surfers in a ballroom that covered a city block, and that had all the big band people there, from Guy Lombardo, from the Harry James to Stan Kenton, the jazz era, everything. So we started. We had no money. There's another story which I won't get into on how we started letting the people know, because we had no money, my dad and I. And we just got the word out. And within a month, we had 4,000 people a night of my performances. So Leo Fender, we came down with Freddie Traveris to find out why I was blowing up all his amplifiers. And then when he saw why, because of the amount of people coming in would soak up the sound, and we didn't use microphones for amplifiers. And then he said, now I know what Dick's trying to tell me, back to the drawing board. And then I get a call about 2 o'clock in the morning, and he goes, I got it, Dick, I got it. And he made the first 85-watt output transformer peaking 100 watts. And in those days, the transformers were only 10, 15 watts, and that's what gives you the fat sound. And then we had to get a speaker, and we had a speaker designed with Lansing, JVL Lansing, the 15-inch D130, and that there handled the sound, and I wanted to put 2 of those speakers in, so we had to design a new transformer, 100 watts, peaking 180 watts. And that's when Dick Dale made people's ears bleed. And that there is basically, so my sounds on my guitar came from the big rhythm, drum rhythms in Gene Cooper, and we made the speaker cabinets 3 feet high, 2 feet wide, 12 inches deep, and that's what gave us the sound. Well, then I used to imitate not only Gene Krupa, but I had over 40 different species of animals from throughout the world: lions, tigers, leopards, jags, gorillas, apes. I had them all: hawks, eagles, falcons, because I was trying to preserve the breeds before they were killed off by the poachers. Right now, my wife she's been with the animals all her life, and she has us belonging to over 200 saving the animal, different properties of groups, or whatever you would call them, and from the rhinos, from the elephants, to everything. So when I would come home, because I had gathered acreage up in say Riverside Mountains, I would have my animals running, and they weren't in small little cages. In fact, my lion would come into my mobile home that I was living in, that I expanded, and it would jump in the bed and break the bed, and I would have to put big cinder blocks underneath the bed. And my animals actually lived with me. And when I was at the beach surfing, and then I had my place in Balboa, all the sea lions, I would take care of them, and because they were dying from pneumonia. So when I got them all healed, they'd all come running up to the door and come into the mansion and go up to the 3rd floor, up and down, and sit on the couch with me. stuff like that. So my life was dedicated to the preservation of the animals, and it still is with my wife Lana. And so they would call to me when I would come home. My mountain lion raised it from a baby, and she would go wow like that, and I would imitate that on my guitar. I'd do the slides, and then my African lion, my lioness, she would roar. She would go ooh like that at like 5 o'clock in the evening. And then I would copy her roar in my guitar. And the elephant, when I would feed it, and I would rub its tongue in its throat with the food, and it would always scream for me. So I would imitate all my animals, and it sounded like sometimes pterodactyl birds and stuff like that. And then it continued to go into the ocean when I was surfing, caught in a big tube, and it would just pick me up and eat me and throw me through down on the into the ground, and so I would just imitate all these sounds of Mother Nature and Mother Nature's creatures, and that's how I got the sound of my guitar to come through the Fender equipment that we designed and that we created, and that's basically the beginning of the whole volume era of I was the first guy to have the output transformers and the big 15-inch speakers. Sure. And that was basically it. And I'm still playing through everything that we created, from the organs, the contempo organs, the pianos that Leo made, and the Fender Rhodes pianos, and I pioneered those in the Rose Bowl and the Hollywood Bowl. So it's been an interesting life, and I'm still alive, and only because that I'd been in the martial arts since I was 18, and my wife Lana, she was trained by a World War II nurse, and she saved Orson Welles' life in the Veterans Hospital, which is the largest in the United States, in St. Petersburg, Florida, where she was born. So she wanted to be a nun, and she just wants to save people and the animals. Now we have them still. All my other animals, my friend had a giant compound, which I turned over to him because then when I got my cancer in my young age, I couldn't continue. And then I fought that and came through, and I'm still fighting it now as a reoccurrence with that and diabetes and kidney malfunctions and all that crap. But what we're doing is we're using our music to go on the road. In fact, I just got out of the hospital because they wanted to put me in because of a shutdown in my system. And they told me not to do this anymore. But because I have never had a drug in my body, and I have never I smoked cigarettes when I was a youngster, but I don't smoke. We don't eat red meat. We don't do any alcohol whatsoever, and any drugs, any pain pills, because they kill you. So we fight the pain. My wife has MS herself and fibromyalgia in her body, and she cries herself to sleep every night, and I massage her so she can go to sleep. And she gets up early in the morning, and she's going 24 hours a day, and that's what we do. We keep moving to fight the pain, and she does all the booking now. She says, you sit down. You've done enough all your life. So she does all the booking. She's my manager. She's my agent, and everything else. And so we do this, and we're like the Pied Piper, like Johnny Appleseed. We be going through, because when I play on stage, and the people that come to me, I share, even on stage, what I'm going through. And I tell them, don't do this and don't do that. You can do this, and this is how you can do that. And we kind of spread the word about what I'm going through, without the use of drugs and everything like that, and painkillers. And so we're like the Johnny Appleseed trying to help these other people. So my music is like a cover of a book. and if you like the cover, you buy the book and you read it. And if you don't like it, you throw it away. If you like it, you keep it. So the people that come to see me play, they're all ages, and they bring their 5-year-old kids, and I talk to them, and I tell them to drink water to cleanse their body, things like that, instead of the soda pops. And I have them coming to me 2 years later, 3 years later, saying, Mr. Dale, I'm still drinking water to wash my body. So if you can help someone, and when the people tell me about their operations, like I've had, and I've been through 3 operations, 2 of them 9.5 hours long. The first one, the doctors came and told my wife I wasn't going to make it, and that was it. And so we let the people know that we're going through the same things that they're going through. But unfortunately, the insurance companies today, because the money that's being taken away from hospitals, over one quarter of the hospitals have been closed in the outlying cities. They've let go the people that have been working 20 years, 30 years, and they just hire young people from other countries to save money. And I've seen it happen because I've been in the hospitals when I saw the change in them. So the whole thing is that what we try to do is we find ways that have kept me going and how Lana keeps going, and we share it with others. And that's the reason why I'm still on the road where we've been kept alive, I believe, by our Maker, because to spread the word about what we're experiencing. I mean, just 2 weeks ago, just a week ago, I couldn't swallow water, one drink of water, because my throat had been torn apart by throwing up so much because of the stoppage that was in my body. My kidneys malfunctioning, my bladder has been shrunk to the size of a pear, and from radiation and from chemotherapy, and I couldn't put food in my body for 3 days because I couldn't swallow. So they had me in the hospital and given me intravenous in both my arms, and gave me stuff to antibiotics that are good for you because the infections, and I have cancer come back in an area. So they wanted to put me in right away, and I just said, I'm keeping going. I'm just going. So, I have to go through another colonoscopy and to find out about the severity of the cancer again. But we just got through playing the Hard Rock in Las Vegas and just blew that place apart. I'm going to be headlining the Viva Las Vegas because I did Viva Las Vegas about 2 years ago with Little Richard. We had close to 30,000 people and 2,000 custom cars, which I love. Yeah. And I'm going to be headlining the Hillbilly, Rockabilly, Viva. No, it's going to be the Rockabilly Viva Las Vegas again. So we expect another 20 to 30,000 people in 2016. And my wife, she's the one who books it with Tom Ingram, the man who's putting it all together. Mm-hmm. And it was so successful. I mean, we sat signing autographs at the table for 5.5 hours. Mm. It was a record, they said, of people standing after the concert. And but it's an amazing thing how they got bands playing for the whole weekend, and Dick Dale's going to be headlining it. So, and then I'm getting ready to play the Whiskey, and the Whiskey is a special historical event for me because the last time I played it was many when I was just in the 60s, and in fact Mick Fleetwood of the Who, Keith Moon of the Who. Mm-hmm. He came up and grabbed the microphone with his road manager, who was the road manager at the one time for the Beatles, Keith Larson. And he said, my name is Keith Moon. I was thinking a beautiful love song, country song. And he goes, and he just grabbed the mic and goes, my name is Keith Moon of The Who. I goes, who? He goes, who? The Who? Who? It's like, who's on first, who's on second, like Bud Abbott and Lou Costello. And because I just never hung around with all the people, so I don't know who all the people. I found so many stars out of my dressing room because they had a drink or just smoking cigarettes. And so we're kind of loners in one way, but we're out there to do a mission. And I believe it is to help others that are lying in their beds right now. They cannot afford to work. I have to work because I got to raise $3,000 every month just to pay for the extra attachment to my stomach, which is a stoma and the stoma bags that the insurance will not cover. And that's why I was talking about how they had closed down so many hospitals. And I've got Blue Cross and everything, and another one to cover. My poor wife doesn't even have insurance. So the whole thing in a nutshell is that you have to find ways that are natural, because half of these pills cause the pancreatic cancer. I mean, I've had my wife tell a doctor that, and he says, well, we're not worried about that at his age. So, and here I am, 78, and still kicking butt.
Amazing. Rocketing to your 80s. Tell us a little bit about it, because I know you started surfing at 17, and obviously the exploration of your guitar sound and this whole surf music, and which obviously became so big with the Beach Boys and the Ventures and all that, and still influences people today. Talk about how that surf culture and you surfing really influenced your music, and likewise.
Well, they call me King of the Surf Guitar. Everything was named by the people that came to my concerts. It's not surf music. Yeah. I mean, when I play, I love Latino music. I wrote songs like Esperanza, Bella Horizonte, and hell, when I would be singing I sing to the groups of the people who are standing in front of me. When I see an older person with a cowboy hat, I'll do Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash used to have my wife, Lana, on his lap for 4 months singing with him, and June Carter singing with them in St. Petersburg, Florida. He wanted to adopt my wife, Lana, because her mother had MS, and she felt that she wouldn't be able to take care of because her original daddy was killed on the railroad tracks. And then her stepdaddy, who was a police officer for 30, 40 years now, he was the one who raised her. So she met so many people there, and then she was working in the hospitals, and she also became a host at this big extravaganza club in Florida where all these stars would come, and Ricardo Montalban, all these people. In fact, Doris Day and Lana still write together. Lana started writing to these people when she was 3. Joan Fontaine just passed away recently. Joan sent Lana her purse, a black leather purse with a gold-plated Jaguar on it, because she knew how we love the animals so much. Doris writes to Lana every month and sends her things, and Lana sends Doris all these trinkets. And she's been doing this since, and she calls her Dodo, and she's been doing this since she was 3 years old, and she's getting to be in her 50s. So that's, she wrote to 30 different people, and they would all write to her. We were supposed to see, never mind, I won't even get into all of that. But the thing is that where they called me King of the Surf Guitar because I was surfing every day. They didn't realize the music I'm playing was a result of Gene Krupa and my animals. And that's where that all came from. And when I did a show, I worked Vegas, Reno, and Tahoe for 20 years. And I learned to play music, every style of music. When I get on the piano is my favorite. And I used to play for my mom. All Silent Nights, La Paloma, Dr. Zhivago. I'd play classical. I'd play every style. I play by ear. I was never taught. I had a 15-piece rock band at one time, 6 horns and 6 girl singers, things like that, for the big band sound. I play my tenor saxophone. This is Selma. I play the Stradivarius Ambassador trumpet. I used to play like Louis Armstrong and play like and then I used to, I forgot what I was going to say because my wife just came in and said something. She said, "Yeah, I own the 2 largest nightclubs in Southern California, and they had a 60-foot stage with a big velvet curtain that I built all the interior all myself, and I would hire groups from Vegas to come in, and that was a whole nother story. I started with a little beer bar in Riverside, California. So, but when I'm coming back now to the whiskey, that is history in the making, because here I am, like the Aragon Ball, the Casino Ballroom in which had been closed for all these years. Every musician in the world played there in those days, in the 30s and 40s, and it was closed, and Dick Dale got to reopen it, and do a concert there. And so I love history, and my wife loves history, and the old days, the big band days. So now, when I was surfing from sun up to sundown all the time. And when I went to Hawaii, I lived in Hawaii, and that was my life. I worked with the Duke. I met and worked with the Duke of Hanamoko, from a man called Moroni Medeiros. He was Portuguese Hawaiian. They used to call me Hapaholi. Man, they welcomed me into their families. And I performed in Hawaii for a long time, and in all the different places. And so water has been my life. I've always been around boats all my life. And Leo had power cruisers, and so have I. And he used to spend half his day drawing the insides of these yachts. And so we had something, so much in common. And he had a saying, Leo Fender. He used to say, "When it can withstand the barrage of punishment of Dick Dale, then it is fit for the human consumption." And isn't it strange that all the years have gone by, and in Hollywood, on Sunset Boulevard, and they have the Guitar Center has this tremendous opening walk where you walk into their store, the Rock Walk. And when they had me to put my hands and make that big square, they did an excellent job with the bronze edges and everything. And they said to me, "Dick, where do you want to be?" And I looked down, and I just saw hundreds from everybody, from Santana, all these guys. But it was strange that when I looked down, I saw Leo Fender, and it said, right next to him was blank. It was like he was waiting.
Saved the spot.
The karma kept everybody away on that side. Yeah. And they put me right next to Leo. And his wife used to say to me, Leo used to come home, and all the hundreds and hundreds of people he's done guitars and amplifiers for. She says he only used to say one name all the time: Dick Dale this, Dick Dale that. I mean, he'd call me up all hours of the night and say, I got it now. Hey, you got to come down. We got to try it out. And that's what we used to do. It was Leo Fender, Freddie Tavares from Hawaii, and myself. We were the Three Musketeers, you would say. So the surfing thing I cannot deny. I cannot say. Don't say King of the Surf guitar. Uh, Although it fits into it, they could have said King of the Sounds of Gene Krupa, King of the Sounds of Dick Dale's Wild Animals,
Sure.
and everything like that, because on stage I perform every style of music, from Deep Purple to everything, Smoke on Water, to Amazing Grace that I end with. And I never use a list in my life. I've always made up everything, and even when I play a song that could be the same song from the concert the night before, it's never the same. I always add stuff into it, and what happens is I tell the audience, if you hear me playing a song and all of a sudden I go into another song halfway through, it's only because I can't remember how to finish the first part. And they all start laughing. And I say, but you're getting double your money's worth. You're getting two songs for one. That's how I make an excuse. So, everything I do is every style of music.
Yes.
So how can you call it surf music?
Sure.
It's not.
Well, your music is obviously synonymous with that beach culture and hot rods.
Right. That's because where the beach came to see me.
Yes.
But what it is it's called Dick Dale music.
Absolutely.
So that's the reason why now when we advertise Dick Dale, we just put guitar legend.
Yeah.
Dick Dale.
Well, it says it all. I mean, you played on the Ed Sullivan Show with Mr.
I was the first person on the guitar, rock guitar, to play on the Ed Sullivan Show. And when I was on there with Letterman, I believe, I think it was that, yeah, I told him, I said, I was here before you. I was making fun. And he goes, what do you mean? I goes, I was on the Ed Sullivan Show with the Three Stooges. They were standing right behind me. And Sonny Liston, he put his hand on the top of my head, covered my whole head with his hand. And that was the night before he was going to fight Cassius Clay at the time. That was the name. And we had the lady who sang the national Over the Rainbow and Kate Smith.
Right.
And Kate Smith. But the Three Stooges were right behind me, and they were telling me all about their history and their life and how they were taken advantage of from the big companies.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I was the first to be in that. The AP release, who Lana deals with now, 24 hours a day, they love her because she's so honest, and that's what it is. And she sends them so much. Well, they told her that Dick Dale got, and I said Dick Dale in the third party. So one guy says, "Oh, he talks about himself in the third party." Well, I hate using the word "I" because that's the most used word in the language of everybody. So they said that Dick Dale has received, in their estimation, the most awards than anyone in the music industry, and they told that to my wife.
Well,
and so they must
deserve that.
And then to be inducted into the real deal, the musicians. It's called the Musicians Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum in Nashville. That's where you have to be voted by 100,000 members of your peers, producers, musicians, and directors. That's the real deal. You're not voted by a dozen people around a table. So they flew me back for that. And in fact, Charlie Daniels was sitting right next to me while we were together. And the bass player for Jimi Hendrix, for Jimmy. And hell, I found Jimmy when he was playing bass for Little Richard in a bar in Pasadena to 20 people. And he wasn't Jimi Hendrix then. And in fact, his drummer, who opened for me many times, Buddy Miles,
yeah,
he would introduce me and he'd tell the audience, I got to tell you something before he comes on stage. And he says, Jimmy used to tell me every day I got my best shit from Dick Dale. Because he used to come and I used to show him my slides. But he couldn't play the way I was playing because he was like me, left-handed. But he wasn't playing upside down backwards. He got a neck, a regular left-handed neck, so that he would be playing as a true left-handed person. I play as a left-handed, right-handed, don't know which way to go.
Well, you know, you've been putting out records now for almost 55 years. You're almost celebrating your 80th birthday coming up. You've influenced everybody from Hendrix to Eddie Van Halen, all the greats. And now you're being sampled by the Black Eyed Peas for Misery.
Right. Well, they came to me. They came to us and asked if they could put music to me playing Misery.
Sure.
And I said, of course. But I said, Ms. Lou already has words to it, but they wanted to put their words to it.
Yes.
Because it is an Arabic song. Ms. Lou means the Egyptian, and it's an Arabic love song. And Waino Habibi, Akfain, where are you, my sweetheart, my darling? So, and I said, go ahead and do it, and they did it, and look what happened. Quentin Tarantino came up to my bass player when we were on tour, gave him a note, and said, my name's Quentin Tarantino. I'd like to talk to Dick Dale. My bass player didn't know who he was, so he threw the note away.
Oh.
And then Quentin came into my dressing room. He said, I've been listening to your music for years, and he says it's so powerful when one listens to it, and you don't use all these weird type of machines. You get it from your hands. And then he says, most people make a movie first, and then they put music to it, and I don't. I do it differently. And he said, I play a song and get involved in a song, and I see a movie coming out of the song. So he says, can I have your permission to use Misery? And it's so powerful. He says, can I take the masterpiece of you playing Misery to create a masterpiece of a movie to complement it? I says, you kidding? Because he was so humble and so true speaking, and he had all the doors slammed in his face by the biggies because he was really not what they thought, and also John Travolta, he had doors slammed in his face because he was typecast. Yeah. He couldn't get a job because of that other stuff. And you know what? And I loved the John Travolta because he was a pilot like me.
Yes.
So I said, oh man. And I says, you go for it. And here I am now in Amsterdam. Quentin goes to Amsterdam. He goes in there and he jumped in a closet and spun the thing over and over again, and then made the movie. And I got a phone call. They sent a limo for me to see the song being played at the movie at Universal Studio, and it just blew me away to hear Ms. Lou,
that's Pulp Fiction. That put Tarantino on the map. Brought
oh, you kidding? The song went in the top 10 action movies in the Smithsonian Institute. And look what John Travolta's doing. He's flying commercial jetliners, for Christ's sake. I'm only flying a twin engine, for crying out loud.
Well, how does it feel this many years on? Because I know when you started playing, you had no idea that 50 years later you'd still be doing this and be such an influence. So how does it feel to hear others being influenced from you, and what advice do you give to new players and new talent today?
My life is, say your first name? Jay. Once again, that's right, her mom. Jay, my whole life has always been living by the next second. And I never thought, I learned this from monks, that they don't think of yesterday because it's been used. It was either good or it was either bad, but it's used. And they don't think about tomorrow because it's not here. They think about now. Today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. It's a gift, a present. So I always take this moment, even talking with you, and I savor it like I would a fine food. And what can I do? What can I do with it? Enjoy it.
Yes.
So then, that's why whenever I go into a restaurant, I look at how it was built. I learn to build houses. I've built a house all by myself. I built my mom and dad's house. I did all the drawings and the elevations. I learned how to do all of that stuff by books. And I tell everybody, don't, your body, and I have a shirt that says it, your body follows your mind. Do not be so weak in the mind that you put into your body what will kill it. So, do something that is constructive. Plant a garden, build a house, learn how to fly a plane, learn how to do archery. I learned all of these things. Study the martial arts. It will give you good discipline within yourself. And that is what kept me going through all these years. So when a kid comes up to me and says, wow, how do you play the guitar like that? And I said, sit down, son, and let me cleanse your soul. And I tell him all about the mental thoughts that why are you playing this instrument? What for? What do you want to achieve? Do you want recognition? Or do you want to play to someone that will make them feel comfortable, like a dying person, like a sick person, or like a child that will look up to you because you're making a sound that the child likes? And then the child will follow you. What you're presenting, just like Lana and I. What we try to do is show them that when someone says to me, let me buy you a drink. Yeah, give me a glass of ice cubes and pineapple juice. Do these things. So what I do is that I look at what can be done, what should be done. What is wrong? You know what's wrong. And I'll tell these kids that are 5, 6, and 7, and 8, or 10, or 15, or 17, when they think they know more than their parents, I'll say, just before you do something, say, would your mom and dad do this? Would they really? So, and then, unfortunately, I used to say this for years, but now I cannot say that because there are too many mom and dads that are drug-ridden, that are in the wrong type of life, from alcohol, from everything. And watch the program, Cops, and see how many people they pull over, and they say they got 2 and 3 children, and they're so strung out they can't even walk or talk. So I say to them, before you do something, would your maker, God, what you call God, would he do this? Would angels do this? Or would Dick Dale and Lana Dale do this? And if you're confused, you give me an email, and you call, you get a hold of me, or Lana, and we'll tell you what is right and what is wrong. And we're not being preachers. We're only telling you what facts are. Go out and do something good for someone. And that's that. If you can't figure it out, and if you can't get a job somewhere, go into a hospital and tell them that you want to help the people in the hospital. Lana worked in the hospital for nothing as a child. She was a candy striper. And she was so good. And then when she was trained by a World War II nurse, she She saved Orson Welles' life, and he wouldn't allow anyone to touch him but Lana. He called them all in the room. Lana found over 100 discrepancies about me when I was in hospitals. So there are things that you can do. Knock on someone's house and say, "Can I paint your house?" And I'll paint it, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, kids, when you're playing, go to a venue and tell them, "You want to get started, I'll play for nothing as an opening band, and if you like me, then pay me."
Sure.
I've done that. I have done that all my life. I've performed and I got paid $20. So I know what it's like.
You got to have confidence in what you do and take chances. You've certainly done that.
Yes, and what I tell people too on stage, I always try to give a little bit of penicillin out there. I say, I'd like to share something with you. I've been going through this crap like I've been going through. I talk to them in the street talk the way they know. And I say, I want to ask you a question. Would you ever think of working 8 hours a day, working in a bakery, or digging a ditch, digging trenches, and doing things like that, digging clams, filling up bags? In other words, you're doing all this work for 5 cents an hour. And you know the roar that I get out of the audience? Oh, you kidding? 5 cents an hour? They're trying to make the average wage go up to $10 an hour now. And I'm saying, you know what? Back in the 1930s, your brain was no different than it is today in the beginnings. Your body is no different than it is today. The only thing that's different is then you worked for 5 cents an hour. Gas was 11 cents a gallon. You could go to a movie for a dime. But that has nothing to do with what you put your mind and your body through working to get that money. And look at today. You think you'd find anybody working for 5 cents an hour with their body? Your body's still the same. It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
So think about it, my friends, because I know I used to do that. I worked for 5 cents an hour in a bakery. And then in the middle of the night, they used to hide me in the toilet in the restroom when the inspectors came because I was underage. So, I used to set up pins, bowling pins, sitting down there and have the ball come down and smash pins up into your face for what, 5 cents a string? And then, I worked at Hughes Aircraft and waited months to get a 5-cent raise every time you put your time card in. And if you were late, they would deduct it. So, it's all in your attitude and the way you look at things in life. There's no reason. And the only reason why we have these poor kids and all of these, I hate to say it, doing the wrong things is because they really don't have someone. I used to think about having a giant ranch of kids that had nobody to teach them how to surf, no one to teach them how to build a box or build a bird cage for the birds to come in. We get over close to 100 ravens at our ranch here now. Every morning at a certain time, the ground is black with them walking all around. We just had a buzzard come in yesterday, which blew my mind. and we have a feeding place where Lana goes out. And the critters off the desert come to her. They live on our ranch, the coyotes. And they say, don't feed them. Well, if you don't feed them, they're going to die out there. And Lana goes out and sits in the middle of them because they bring their babies to her, and they sit around her. So these are all these animals. The jackrabbits and the cottontails, they all eat at the same time the coyotes do, because they're being fed. And then we have the jackrabbits and cottontails. They go into a hole in the door of our washroom and live in there. And then we have, 2,000 to 3,000 doves walk there. It looks like Alice in Wonderland. And we must have over 150 pigeons that just come there. They all come in the same place, and we come home and they come to us. So what a beautiful thing it is to teach a child to give love to an animal instead of shooting it and killing it. We do not need to kill animals. Nature will take care of itself. So that's what Lana and I try to do.
Well, Dick, you've been a great example as a humanitarian, as an environmental activist, as a musical influence. You definitely made this a better place. We honor your music. We can't wait to see you at the Whiskey, and tell everyone to go see Dick Dale when he comes to your town.
Oh, thank you.
We really appreciate everything you've done, and really wish you best of luck in the future.
God bless you, and thanks for calling us to try to spread the word. And the Whiskey is going to really, really bring back time to me. It's going to bring back the beginnings. I mean, I started, and I came in 54, and then being there in the late 50s, and I mean, it's going to be me like playing Viva Las Vegas, I guess. It's going to be something, and I'm glad that it's still. I realize that many of those places are being bought up. The land is being bought up, and they're being asked to move, and they're trying to move. But from what I understand, the Whiskey's going to be staying.
Yep. Because
the owner believes in the same stuff that Lana and I believe in. So that's it. We can't be bought.
Your music will live forever. Thank you so much, Dick.
Yeah, God bless you and good health to you. And please tell everyone that our prayers are with everyone. And I thank you for the interview.